Symbolism in the French Revolution was a device to distinguish and celebrate the main features of the French Revolution and ensure public identification and support. In order to effectively illustrate the differences between the new republic and the old regime, the leaders needed to implement a new set of symbols to be celebrated instead of the old religious and monarchical symbolism. To this end, symbols were borrowed from historic cultures and redefined, while those of the old regime were either destroyed or reattributed acceptable characteristics. These revised symbols were used to instill in the public a new sense of tradition and reverence for the Enlightenment and the Republic. Faces, like many other symbols of the French Revolution, are Roman in origin. Faces are a bundle of birch rods containing an axe. In Roman times, the faces symbolized the power of magistrates, representing union and accord with the Roman Republic. The French Republic continued this Roman symbol to represent state power, justice, and unity. During the Revolution, the face's image was often used in conjunction with many other symbols. Though seen throughout the French Revolution, perhaps the most well-known French reincarnation of the faces is the faces surmounted by a Phrygian cap. This image has no display of an axe or a strong central state. Rather, it symbolizes the power of the liberated people by placing the liberty cap on top of the classical symbol of power. Tricolor cockade. Cockades were widely worn by revolutionaries beginning in 1789. They now pinned the blue and red cockade of Paris onto the white cockade of the Ancien Roi copyright Gime, thus producing the original tricolor cockade. Later, distinctive colors and styles of cockade would indicate the wearer's faction. Although the meanings of the various styles were not entirely consistent, and varied somewhat by region and period. The tricolor flag is derived from the cockades used in the 1790s. These were circular rosette-like emblems attached to the hat. Camille Desmoulins asked his followers to wear green cockades on July 12, 1789. The Paris Militia, formed on July 13, adopted a blue and red cockade. Blue and red are the traditional colors of Paris, and they are used on the city's coat of arms. Cockades with various color schemes were used during the storming of the Bastille on July 14. The blue and red cockade was presented to King Louis XVI at the Hôtel de Ville on July 17. Lafayette argued for the addition of a white stripe to nationalize the design. On July 27, a tricolor cockade was adopted as part of the uniform of the National Guard, the national police force that succeeded the militia. The Society of Revolutionary Republican Women, a militant group on the far left, demanded a law in 1793 that would compel all women to wear the tricolor cockade to demonstrate their loyalty to the Republic. The law was passed but was violently opposed by other groups of women. The Jacobins in charge of the government decided that women had no place in public affairs, and disbanded all women's organizations in October 1793. Liberty cap. In revolutionary France, the cap or bonnet rouge was first seen publicly in May 1790, at a festival in Troyes adorning a statue representing the nation, and at Lyon, on a lance carried by the goddess Libertas. To this day the national emblem of France, Marianne, is shown wearing a Phrygian cap. The caps were often knitted by women known as tricoteuse who sat beside the guillotine during public executions in Paris in the French Revolution, supposedly continuing to knit in between executions. The Liberty cap, also known as the Phrygian cap, or pileus, is a brimless, felt cap that is conical in shape with the tip pulled forward. The cap was originally worn by ancient Romans and Greeks. The cap implies ennobling effects, as seen in its association with Homer's Ulysses and the mythical twins, Castor and Pollux. The emblem's popularity during the French Revolution is due in part to its importance in ancient Rome. Its use alludes to the Roman ritual of manumission of slaves, in which a freed slave receives the bonnet as a symbol of his newfound liberty. The Roman tribune Lucius Appius Saturninus incited the slaves to insurrection by displaying a pileus as if it were a standard. The pileus cap is often red in color. This type of cap was worn by revolutionaries at the fall of the Bastille. According to the Revolutions de Paris, it became the symbol of the liberation from all servitudes, the sign for unification of all the enemies of despotism. The pileus competed with the Phrygian cap, a similar cap that covered the ears and the nape of the neck, for popularity. The Phrygian cap eventually supplanted the pileus and usurped its symbolism, becoming synonymous with republican liberty. Clothing. As the radicals and Jacobins became more powerful, there was a revulsion against high fashion because of its extravagance and its association with royalty and aristocracy. It was replaced with a sort of anti-fashion for men and women that emphasized simplicity and modesty. The men wore plain, dark clothing and short unpowdered hair. During the Terror of 1794, the workaday outfits of the sans-culottes symbolized Jacobin egalitarianism. High fashion and extravagance returned under the Directory, 1795–99, with its directoire styles. The men did not return to extravagant customs. Liberty Tree. The Liberty Tree, officially adopted in 1792, is a symbol of the everlasting republic, national freedom, and political revolution. It has historic roots in revolutionary France as well as America, as a symbol that was shared by the two nascent republics. The tree was chosen as a symbol of the French Revolution because it symbolizes fertility in French folklore, which provided a simple transition from revering it for one reason to another. The American colonies also used the idea of a liberty tree to celebrate their own acts of insurrection against the British, starting with the Stamp Act riot in 1765. The riot culminated in the hanging in effigy of two Stamp Act politicians on a large elm tree. The elm tree began to be celebrated as a symbol of liberty in the American colonies,